joining tonight. Thank you everyone from cold South Africa, sunny California, Tel Aviv, wherever you're joining, just thank you for making the time to be with us. I'm Tzipora Pogrund. I'm a representative at Osameach in Johannesburg, in Glen Hazel in the heart of Johannesburg. I'm also the community director of the Hazel Sassoon Women's Learning Center. And I'm here tonight with my husband, Rabbi Gideon Pogrund, who was part of the leadership team of Osameach. And now he spends most of his time as the director of the Center for Business Ethics at the Gordon Institute of Business Sciences, commonly known as GIBS. And we are just delighted and honored to welcome Dr. Edith Eger to speak with us at this Unity event. Tonight we have with us some of the most important and influential schools, shuls, and organizations from the Joburg to Cape Town Jewish communities. These are our partners tonight: the Base, King David Schools, Seoul, Sunny Road Kahila, Asia Torah South Africa, Soulful Tours, Mizrahi, Amuna, Great Park Synagogue, Torah Academy Schools, Linksfield Shul, Benos, Kesher, The Arch, Chabad of the West Coast, and Santon Shul. Thank you all. Your participation in the large audience today, which is over 800 and growing, is a testimony to how special an opportunity it is for us to engage and learn from Dr. Eger. Thank you to Moshe Zolberg of Jonamo for your technical help and setting everything up so smoothly. Dr. Edith Eger is an eminent psychologist, a Holocaust survivor, and the New York Times bestselling author of The Choice and the Gift. She's an extraordinary human being. Her books are truly and literally life-changing. Dr. Eger, I'm so happy to meet you tonight and to introduce you to the South African Jewish community. I'm honored. At the same time your book, The Choice, made its way to South African bookshelves during the depths of our lockdown about a year ago, I was getting messages from my mother, a friend and great admirer of yours, from your joint community in La Jolla, California, telling me, Tzipora, you must read the book. You must read this book. It will change your life. Thank you, Dr. Eger. My family and I have learned so much from you. And I have no doubt that the people who have joined tonight will leave feeling the same. So thank you so much for setting aside the time and for being with us tonight. So happy to meet you.
I just want to tell you that I heard about this Pope who went into the Sistine Chapel and looked up and angrily asked, "When are you going to be ready?" And he looked down and he said, "When I'm ready." So when you are ready to read my book, chances are you're going to take a paper and a pencil and underline certain things, because I hope it's going to be practical to you when you're ready. When you're ready to recognize there is no freedom without responsibility. If you ask a child, why do you do that? And the kid would say, because I feel like it. Kids don't care about consequences. As an adult, I still feel like it because God gave me something called temptation. And as a child, I don't care about the consequences. But as an adult, I may really feel like it, and I decide whether I'm going to act upon it or not. And this is why I'm here today, because we never appreciate what we have many times until we lose it. And I know, to me, every moment is precious. I never throw out a piece of bread. If you take me out to eat, I'm going to eat up my food and your food and pack it up and take it home, you name it. And my daughter calls it Edie-isms and says, are you evolving or are you revolving? So maybe this is a good time that I am your person who give you an opportunity to not go back, but to take inventory. It's a time to regroup and redesign.
So Dr. Eger, just to echo Tzipora, it's really wonderful to meet you, albeit only virtually. It's a great joy and an honor and a privilege. And you've alluded to this now, but of course, central to your life and your work is the belief that we have choice.
Yes.
And in your book, The Choice, you describe how you were forced to dance before Mengele, Yamach Shemor, to save your life in Auschwitz.
Yes.
And how you then recalled your mother's words. Just remember, no one can take away from you what you've put in your own mind.
That's right. And when he came and wanted to be entertained, I went to a Jewish school, and the teacher was there. And she looked at me with that big finger, kind of real bony, and said, "You do what you are told," you know. And that's how I found myself with Dr. Mengele, and I closed my eyes and I pretended that the music was Tchaikovsky, and I was dancing the Romeo and Juliet at the Budapest Opera House. I think it's very important to ask the audience today, take time out to really look at your life and ask two questions. And one would be, when did your childhood end? Because I know I'm an immigrant to America, and my little girl was 2 years old. And she taught me how to speak English. She taught me how to buy peanut butter. She taught me how to eat tuna fish. So what happens, we parentize our children a lot of the times. It's, I didn't hurt my daughter any, but I think it's a good thing to kind of take stock now, and not to say why me, but what now.
Right. And I know that you call your therapeutic approach choice therapy.
Yes.
And you speak about how we become mental jailers, but that the keys to open those jails are in our own pockets. And it seems to me that this is deeply aligned with a fundamental principle in Judaism, what we call Bechira Chofshis, or free will, being free to choose, and how being free to choose is the basis for being responsible and accountable in our lives. And I think that this principle is especially relevant at this time of year, during the month of Elul, as we prepare for Rosh Hashanah, which is all about accepting responsibility and accountability. Can you talk more about choice and its implications for being responsible and being accountable?
I think it's so important the way you talk to me, and you're so brilliant to telling me that even in the darkest places, there was life and there was a choice, that we were having nothing but each other then, and we have nothing but each other now. How we can really have joy and passion, and most of all, how we can go beyond the me, and commit ourselves to each other. Because I had my sister Magda, and she was more hungry than I was. So I remember eating that soup that had a lot of poison in it. We were medicated very, very, very much. And so the following day I had the bread, and I told her that I'm not hungry at all. So I think it was very, very important. My sister Magda was 100 years old in January 23rd this year. And if you call her, she'll tell you she's 99. So if you talk to a Hungarian woman, I don't know why 1 year makes a difference. Don't even ask me. And I would never tell her I know differently. That she was born in 1921, my sister Clara 1924, and I was born in 1927. I'm going on 94. And when I was 40, my supervisor said to me, "You have to go get a doctorate." And I said, "It's impossible. By the time I get a doctorate, I'll be 50. And he said, You'll be 50 anyway. And I'm going to tell you that, you know, your chronological age is going to happen anyway. It's your attitude, it's your responses, it's the way, hopefully, that you get up from where you are and explore your curiosity, because that's the magic word that really helped me to survive Auschwitz. I always wanted to know what's going to happen next.
Can we maybe talk a bit more about that? In your book, The Choice, you define what you call the rules of survival in Auschwitz.
Yes.
And you said, if I can just read from it, if you can steal a piece of bread from the guards, you are a hero. But if you steal from an inmate, you are disgraced, you die. Competition and domination get you nowhere. Cooperation is the name of the game. To survive is to transcend your own needs and commit yourself to someone or something outside yourself. And of course, you write about how Mengele threw you that loaf of bread and you chose to share it with others. And it reminded me of what our rabbis teach. If I'm only for myself, what am I? Which in simple terms is a statement about our interdependence and our interconnectedness. Our lives, as you say, can't just be about me, me, me. And in a way, I think it's in a similar vein. Rav Yisrael Salanta spoke about how during this time, as we prepare for Rosh Hashanah, we should strive to be what he calls Rabim Tzrichim Lo, one upon whom others are dependent. Can you perhaps talk about your views and insights and experiences?
When I talk to men, they use the word understand. Men want to understand things. You ask a woman, so how do you feel about it? What is your heart telling you? What is your spirit? What is that sixth sense that we have and use? I think it's very important to know that we were designed differently. The corpus callosum of the male is different from the female. That's why we call men thick-headed. And I think that's also something you may want to talk about, because if you are in your mental prison, you need to really know that you may avoid certain things that you could now let go of and replace. That it's important to get rid of rigid thinking like all or nothing, and get rid of two words, always and never, because I always do that. I'm never going to get better. Women tell me, oh, Edie, I'll never find a man. And I said, if I were a man, I would run from you. What's the matter with you? You know, you have to be like a nice fireplace that people really want more of you and enjoy the company. So I think this is a wonderful time, Rabbi, to know that you don't have a job, you have your calling. And I was chosen to be here and celebrate that my mother, my parents, grandparents never died in vain. I'll do anything in my power to know that will hopefully, I do everything I can, that will never happen again.
Perhaps we could build on that and this idea of choice, which is so central to your life and work, and relate to suffering. Reading your books, I'm reminded of another deeply Jewish idea, which is that God doesn't only communicate to us through the Torah, through the Sfarim, through the books, but also through our life experiences. And that those experiences, including and perhaps even especially the painful ones, are educational. They have the potential to teach us.
Yes.
And you say in your book that while suffering is universal and inevitable, we can always choose how to respond. And
Yes.
as you said earlier, you point out that whereas victims ask, why me? Survivors ask, what now? And then you go further and you say, our worst experiences can be our best teachers, which I think you've alluded to now. And in the choice you write, our painful experiences aren't a liability, they're a gift. They give us perspective and meaning, an opportunity to find our unique purpose and strength. You've touched on this already, but can you talk more about this, please?
Thank you. I maybe want to, I always talk about what I lived. And one day someone showed up in my office, and it was a 14-year-old white supremacy boy. And he told me he's a boot boy. It was in Texas, and I know nothing about boots. I want you to know I still don't. So I acknowledged his boots, but then he got up and he put his elbow on my desk and he said, "Hey, Doc, it's time for America to be white again. And I'm going to kill all the Jews." And then furthermore, mentioned the N-word and the Mexicans and the Chinese and went on. So if I would have reacted, I would have dragged that kid probably in a corner. I would step on him and I would say, "How can you talk like that? My mother went to the gas chamber." But you see, I discovered God in Auschwitz. So I went to God and I said, "What's the meaning of this?" And God told me, "Find the bigot in you." And I said to God, "That's impossible." I came to America penniless. It was 1949. I worked in a factory in Baltimore, Maryland. And when I went to the bathroom, one of them said colored. I came to America, find democracy, and look what I was faced with. I gathered the women of color. I went to that meeting. I ended up going in 1963 to Washington, where I was singing with the mamas and the papas. Maybe you can find them. And "We Shall Overcome." And I got a hug from Martin Luther King. So I know I was also with a boy who was killed, a Jewish boy who was part of us, who were part of our journey there. So I think it's happening now. I know because in January 6th, I saw a person wearing a shirt that 6 million was not enough. So I came back from God, and instead of doing what I thought I was going to do, I changed and I did what God was telling me to do, namely to stop judging the young boy and create an environment so he can feel any feelings without the fear of being judged. And I said, "Tell me more." So sometimes, I tell children in school, you cannot really change the bully. And the bully is going to start a sentence with the word "you." You are stupid, you are weak, you. And when you hear the word "you," just think of grandma. I don't want them to use Dr. Eger ever. It's grandma. And say to yourself, the longer they talk, the more relaxed I become. And this is the schoolroom in Auschwitz. The more I was told I'm never going to get out of here alive, the more I was told that I am subhuman and I don't deserve to live, the more I realized that that's a lie, and I will not ever allow him to get to my soul. And I think that is very, very important for us to be compassionate listeners and just say, thank you for your opinion. You know, you don't have to design something that if someone throws out the rope, don't pick it up. It takes two to fight. It takes one to stop it. It's what you practice. That's what you're going to be good at. So I like, as I said before, going through the valley of the shadow of death, but don't get stuck in there. I refuse to be a victim. It's not my identity. It's not who I am. It's what was done to me. I never forget what happened. I never overcome. I don't even know that word, but I came to terms with it. I don't live there. And I think that's why you are chosen with a Rebbetzin who is not behind you at all. That pioneer woman is with you. You're working as a team together. And you're much, much better together than you alone. And that's why I am so happy to talk to couples, because children don't do what we say. They do what they see. And I can teach you how to fight creatively, that the children don't have to be scared that somehow you're going to a lawyer and getting a divorce. So I love my God. I love my God. I talk to my God every time I drive and I come home. My children, of course, don't want me to drive anymore. And so far, I'm talking to you on a Sunday morning so happily and letting you know that I saw a dance in your town, maybe 15 people, brilliant dancers. So I don't remember the name of it, but they were brilliant, brilliant dancers. So I have wonderful memories of South Africa.
Wonderful. And maybe that relates to another question, but perhaps before asking it, if I can just invite members of the audience to post any questions that you might have on the Q&A, and we'll try to share them with Dr. Eger. But a question which I think comes out of what you just said, Dr. Eger, another foundational Jewish principle is Hakaras Hatov, which is translated as gratitude, but which literally means recognizing the good. And recognizing the good is an active and a dynamic process. It's a matter of avoda, something that we have to work to do. It's a matter of deliberate and conscious choice. So, in your book, soon after your arrival at Auschwitz, you describe this extraordinary moment with your sister Magda. You say, it's the first time I see that we have a choice to pay attention to what we've lost or to pay attention to what we still have. And I was moved to tears when I read that passage in the book. And you've alluded to it, but you write about how you turned your hellish experiences in Auschwitz into a gift. So can you perhaps talk more about that, about how we can recognize the good and how important that can be, for example, in our marriages and our relationships?
It is so important to acknowledge that I can be miserable or happy. I have that choice. It's the same price. And what was important for me to know that I had my sister to take care of, even though she was much older. And the example of it is that there we were standing completely nude, and my sister Magda looked at me and asked me a good Hungarian question, how do I look? Okay? And And I had a choice whether to concentrate what she lost. And I remember that I said to myself, I guess I'm her mirror. So instead of telling her how she really looked, naked, bald head, I remember telling Magda, you have beautiful eyes, and I didn't see it when you had your hair all over the place. So before you say anything, you may ask yourself, is it kind? Because no one grows on criticism. So get rid of yes, but, and say yes, and. It makes a whole lot of difference. If I tell my daughter that you're beautiful, but you're fat and pimply, she never hear what I said before, the but. So I ask people to deal with the guilt, because the guilt is in the past. And there is one thing I cannot change, is the past. That's one thing we cannot change. So instead of blaming, you ask yourself, what can I do right now to acknowledge that if I knew then what I know now, I would have done things differently. My parents had tickets to come to America, and they never used it. So stop blaming yourself, because you could have done better. If you knew better, you would have done differently. So don't please blame yourself, and just say to yourself, if I knew then what I know now, I would have done things differently, and get rid of the word always and never. Up till now and in the past, just replace it.
Right. There is
You asked a wonderful question. I love your question. My story is that after 2 girls, my son was born, and my late husband was so happy that we're going to have a son carrying the name of Rabbi Akiva Eger. But my son did not develop. He didn't sit up. He didn't get up. He didn't walk. He did not talk until about 4 years old. And I asked 5 doctors in Texas, where do I get a second opinion? This is a country of second opinion. And they sent me to Johns Hopkins. And I got in, and this wonderful neurologist by the name of Dr. Clark told me that he's going to take my son and he's going to do a lot of exams and to come back in a week. And that's exactly what happened. I came back in a week. He sat me down and he said, your son is not retarded. And I want you to go home and I want you to take him to the cerebral palsy clinic, because he needs speech therapy, occupational therapy, and this and that and this and that. And I'm sitting there and shaking. And I said, how much do I owe you? He said, $10. I tell you that my biggest success is that my son John graduated as a top 10 student from the University of Texas. So that's how you turn tragedy into victory and the bad into good. It's not bad, it's a challenge. There are no problems, there are only challenges. There is no crisis, there is no midlife crisis, there is a midlife transition. So the opposite of depression is expression. You see, that you really have a new beginning, and you get to really know each other as soulmates, and see that maybe time to switch gears. Maybe it's time to do something in your community that needs cooperation. Because when I got the bread, what Dr. Mengele gave me, I was hungry and I could have eaten the whole thing in no time at all. And thank God I looked up and I saw the girls there, and I climbed up and shared the bread with them. And when I was in that march in 1945, in April, going from Mauthausen to Gunskirchen, and I was about to stop. And when you stopped, you were shot. I revisited that every place I've been there, including Auschwitz. Anyway, the girls I shared the bread with saw me slowing down, and guess what they did? They came and they carried me so I wouldn't die. Isn't that amazing? Mm-hmm. The other thing is that I can't is not in my vocabulary, because when I was very, very hungry and I was in Austria and I asked God to help me because I'm so hungry, and God told me to look down, and I had still grass to eat. So when I go to a classroom, I put down I can't equals I'm helpless. And then I take the apostrophe and the T, I can. Why? Because I think I can. And that's what my mother told me. So think about your thinking and concentrate on what you focus on. So that could be really helpful to you. That has to be in alignment to the goal. I call it my arrow, the arrow that you follow. So change is synonymous with growth. Yes.
Yes. Relating to this, one of the questions on the chat
Good.
has to do with the pandemic. It's a question from Leanne Zabo. Thoughts about the pandemic we're living through, and perhaps I can just try to relate that to what you've discussed and what you say in your book. You talk about the prison of hopelessness, and you write that hope isn't the white paint we use to mask our suffering. It's an investment in curiosity, a recognition that if we give up now, we'll never get to see what happens next. And you describe hope as the boldest act of imagination I know, which I think is utterly beautiful. So as we know, COVID has inflicted terrible loss and suffering in all sorts of ways, physical, emotional, and financial. And I think Leanne is alluding to that in the question. And because of it, some people have been engulfed by a sense of hopelessness. So perhaps building on what you've just shared, what advice would you offer?
Or how long could you live? How long do you hold that pain? And how long do you give to release it? It's real pain. Somebody loses somebody. Somebody is suffering. Suddenly, it's too much. How long do you allow? And then you say, what now?
Well, what you do is be Jewish. And Jewish people talk to themselves. And they really listen to the voices that come to them. And the voice is, what am I doing now? And secondly, is it working? Just be practical. It's anything, any choice you have, you're going to have consequences, not punishment. So that's why it's important. Anything you do, ask yourself, is this empowering me or depleting me? It's really listening to your gut, to your kishka, and that kishka is talking to you, and you better go to you, because that's what I learned in Auschwitz, that all we had was ourselves, and not to wait for somebody to come and liberate me, that I found my inner resources, and I was able to become my own good person who said a lot of yeses. So I had a patient who went to a marathon, and the marathon was very long, and she stopped, and she thought she can't move anymore. And then she ran into my office and said, I did it. That's what you told me, Dr. Eger. And I said, what did I tell you? And she said, yes, I am. Yes, I can. Yes, I will. So let us go and talk about, yes, I am one of a kind. God never made another me. Many people can do what you can do, but not the way you can do it. You're unique. You're one of a kind. There'll never be another you. So you become your best encourager, just like in a football game. Yes, I am. Yes, I can. Yes, I will. And thank God I am here now to let you know that you have to be old to be young. Because I think you are happy when you give up the need for other people's approval. So if I come to you and tell you I really like you and I really would like to be a friend with a brilliant Robertson like you, and I hope you would like to get to know me too. And you say to me, well, that's really very lovely, heartfelt. I just tell you right now, I'm not ready for such a relationship. So look what I did. I used a 4-letter word, which is the best. It's called risk. I risked, and I asked you what I wanted. I didn't get what I wanted. It doesn't mean I was rejected. There is no such word. Rejection is an English word that people make up to express a feeling when you don't get what you want. So give up the drama. The only one can reject me is me. So risk, I much rather risk and suffer than not risk at all. Because suffering is feelings, and suffering makes you stronger. So these are the things you learn in Auschwitz, that you do not allow 4 o'clock in the morning the guards to even think that you're going to go to the gas chamber. When we took a shower, we didn't know whether gas or water is going to come out. And that's very difficult to be in a limbo. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So you have a lot of doubt. And the doubt comes in for sure, and you may not know where to put that word right now.
There's another question on the chat from Eva Sassoon, and a disclaimer, she happens to be my aunt. And the question is about your relationship with Viktor Frankl.
Yes.
Of course, he was your great mentor. Could you talk about that relationship?
Well, I was at the University of Texas, and someone handed me that book, Man's Search for Meaning, and I came home. It was late at night, and I opened the book, and I don't know if you ever read a book that you wanted to write 10 more pages. I couldn't believe it that there is such a thing. And so very quickly I wrote an article and I sent it in to the Humanistic Psychology Institute. And next thing I knew, I got a letter from Viktor Frankl. He wants to meet me in San Diego at the university where he was teaching Man's Search for Meaning. And that's how the relationship began, with a man who was in his 70s, and he was climbing mountains at the Alps. He was taking lessons how to fly. A very amazing Renaissance man. And I became a diplomate in sex therapy and also logotherapy. And today, I think it's very important when you do grief work to find that existential vacuum. It's not clinical depression when you're just looking for meaning and purpose in your life. So I think I was very fortunate enough to become a logotherapist, and logo means finding meaning. It means in Greek. So, but you see, he was in his 30s. He was a medical doctor in Auschwitz. And he told me that he pretended, he closed his eyes when he was tortured, that he's lecturing at the Viennese lecture hall about the psychology of the concentration camp. And I said, that's very interesting. I used the same skills. I too closed my eyes, and the music was Tchaikovsky, and I was dancing the Romeo and Juliet. So we were in a different time in our lives. I'm 16, in love, and my boyfriend and I were strong Zionists. We belonged to the Betar, and we were going to go to Palestine to fight. We were very militant. So you see, that's how things are not comparable, but people do the way they do it. And I'm so happy that Viktor Frankl really became my mentor and my role model and my colleague.
And in a way, I think that leads to another question on the chat from Maria Baida about whether you'd recommend therapy or counseling as a way for people to heal from their different problems. How important is it? Asks Maria.
We just read your book.
Well, there is a very simple question. What do I want? What do you want? You may want something that doesn't exist. That's why marriages fall apart, because we have faulty expectations. You know, we think we are Juliet, and, we don't know each other. And we assign the traits to the other person that they never had. I think it's very good to not to rush into marriage, but I do recommend marry your soulmate, not the hot lover, because romantic love, falling in love, is a chemical high that people get when they eat chocolate. It has nothing to do with love. And I think falling in love is not going to give you the love of a soulmate that you can go to and know that you're never going to be judged. And so I talk a great deal about love is not what you feel, is what you do. That you are a role model to your children the way you treat the children's mother. Love is what you do, not what you feel.
You talk a lot also about forgiveness and of letting go of hostility, anger, and resentment. And I see someone in the chat's also got a question to do with that. This quality of forgiving, being moichel, the quality of letting go, being mevater, is of course so central to Judaism, and especially at this time of the year. What can you tell us about forgiving or letting go of the anger towards those who have wronged us?
I think what is important not to confuse forgiveness with me forgiving you for what you did to me. I don't have any godly powers like that. I think forgiveness is a gift that I give me, that I let go of the part in me that may be still keeping me hating and be against rather than being for something. So I consider forgiveness a gift that I give me. because revenge can give you satisfaction. And it's very good to check out a movie called The Karate Kid, that the best power is brain power. So it's not me forgiving you. I don't have that kind of godly power at all. But if I hate, I'm still a prisoner. And I refuse to give Hitler another inch.
You're saying it's only God who forgives.
It's only I do what's humanly possible, and then I hand it over to God. Yes, my God kept me. People ask me, where was God in Auschwitz? And my answer is, God didn't kill my parents. People did. You're not born to hate. You learn to hate. I think it's very important when you say to yourself, I hate myself for what I did. Well, forgive yourself, because if I knew then, you could have done things very differently. I know my parents would have done things very differently if they would have come to America with the tickets that they had in there. We never knew what's going to happen next until I saw Arbeit macht frei. And my father said, oh, it's not so bad. We're just going to work and then we go home. So when we were separated and I ended up with a couple who took out my earrings and I was bleeding, and we call it displaced aggression. I didn't know that. But I said to her, I could have given you my earrings. It's okay. And by the way, when will I see my mother? Because I followed my mother, and Mengele looked at me, grabbed me and said, you're going to see your mother very soon. She's just going to take a shower. And my father was a tailor and then became a couturier. And he told me, when you grow up, you're going to be the best dressed girl. And he made a silk dress for me with a blue dress with a polka dot and had two beautiful little bows in there. And I remember him watching the bows, and I have a feeling that maybe he thought, I'm not going to let her go with her mother. But I don't know anymore. But anyway, she looked at the chimney, fire coming out, and said, your mother is burning there. You better talk about her in past tense. And my sister hugged me and said, the spirit never dies. That's how I entered Auschwitz. Yeah, Magda suffered more from hunger than I did. But I know that the bread that Dr. Mengele gave me, I am so grateful that I was thinking of someone else rather than me being the one who is selfish and caring only about me. So self-love is self-care. It's not narcissistic. We say that here 1,000 times a day. If you don't love yourself, why should I? So I think it's not narcissistic. It's okay to get up in the morning. It's okay look in a mirror and say, Tzipora, I love you. It's okay. Can I tell you something? I have someone here now who carried you in her belly.
What?
And that is called my wonderful, Orthodox, beautiful.
No, I didn't carry you.
No, that's not my mother.
Wrong family.
I'm a fellow.
She's South African.
There's, of course, a big South African community in San Diego. Some of whom I know are on this webinar.
Which is also
I was with the Able Corps for many, many, many years, and Selma called me her sister. And so I'm very, very happy that I was able to go to South Africa and get to know the Jewish community. You had a very beautiful Viennese restaurant, and I remember having the Wiener Schnitzel there. I talk about food because I love food, but I love soul food that I really want to talk today. Now, my little girl here, and she's my right-hand person, and Katie is really arranging everything and everyone at any time for me. So I'm very blessed. She's German. She was born in Germany, and I know that a woman died in Germany a while ago, and they asked her, "Why did you risk your life to save Jews?" And her answer was, "My father told me that's the right thing to do." So don't just look for Nazis in Germany. They were good people in Germany who risked their lives. And the largest Jewish population today is in Germany.
One of the questions on the chat from Vendetta Gordon is, does the current trend of increasing anti-Semitism around the globe worry you?
Yes. But I don't like worry. I think it's a useless emotion. It doesn't get you anywhere. I think worry is not really where I go. I just go everything in my very limited power to go to schools and talk to the young people, and I call them the ambassadors for peace and goodwill, and I let them know that the ancestors didn't have it good, and they were slaves, and they had to walk, 40-some years in the desert and never gave up. So I think it's very important for us to be realistic. And in January 6th was a very sad day for me when I saw someone wearing a shirt. 6 million was not enough. So yes, it's here. Yes. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But I think it's very good that you and I talk, and we keep recognizing, and Jewish people are so good knowing that my parents didn't die in vain. I'm celebrating my mother who told me that everything can be taken away from you. Just remember, no one can take away from you what you put in your mind. So think about your thinking, because what you think, you create.
So
Sorry.
What your ballet teacher said to you which was
Yes.
similar, but
Yes.
that stuck out with me from the book. That you can say it better than me, Doctor. All the ecstasy of life comes from within.
Inside out.
That thinking.
I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't know what ecstasy means. So that's the first question. When did your childhood end? And the second question is, would you like to be married to you? It's okay. You don't have to say anything about it. It's just kind of and I hope you are, acknowledging you that you're one of a kind and God will never make another you. And so I like that, to know that you have self-love and self-care, and you're a good mommy to you, and you don't do anything in excess.
So maybe a last question, because we're about to run out of time, but I think it comes directly out of what you've just shared with Tzipora. The Hebrew word for repentance is tshuva, but tshuva doesn't literally mean repentance, it means return. The word leshuv, return, to return. The purpose of tshuva is to return to your true self and thereby to God. And in the gift, you talk about how changes are becoming not the new you,
And
but
the real you.
the real you.
Exactly.
And
Because we give up
can you
our
talk
genuine.
about that for a few minutes, please? And I think that's a great way to conclude.
It's a very good, because, you know, if you're a firstborn and you marry a firstborn, you're going to have two bosses, and they could be. See, when I'm right, you're wrong. When I'm good, you're bad. You see, I think there are characteristics that come with the number that you chose in your family. The middle children are usually peacemakers. They become like Kissinger. They want everybody to get along with anybody else. Now, how do you call the baby in a family? It's called charming manipulators. When your little girl came and nuzzled up to you, Daddy, oh my God, no wonder somebody built a Taj Mahal for a wife. That little girl can make you go no matter where. Let me give you something that I read somewhere. That there was this guru, and he went with his teacher, excuse me, he went with his student, and then they ended up in a lake, and there was a woman crying because she had to go across the lake, but she didn't know how to swim. So the guru picked up the woman, took the woman across, put her down, and off they went again. As they go, the student says to the guru, I'm so disappointed in you. I thought you were an honest man, but you're a fake, because you told me never touch a woman, and look what you did. And the guru said, I saw a woman. I carried her across. I put her down, but you are still carrying her. So don't carry the things to next year, honey. See that you can sit the Shiva, because the Torah said, after 1 year, leave the dead alone. And some children get more attention when they're dead. And so I think it's a very good time for the family to sit down and create the family, knowing that there is no freedom without responsibility. It's anarchy. So I wish you to be childlike, but not childish. Okay? So have fun with each other and get rid of two things. Don't ask, how are you? And don't say, why don't you? And that's what we women do. We ask questions and we give advice. That's not sexy at all.
Dr. Eger, I'm conscious of time.
Okay.
Please.
I just want to say, it's better to say, gee, it's good to see you. I missed you. I like statements rather than questions, especially why questions. Okay. I am sorry.
Thank you very much, Dr. Eger. We're so grateful to you for sharing your extraordinarily powerful experiences and your profound insights. I'm sure that I speak for the hundreds of people who have joined the webinar in saying how you've influenced how we will approach our choices. And you and your teachings are truly a gift. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I wish you hope and a wonderful, wonderful holiday that is coming up. We have a lot to think about how we could survive this unexpected and unanticipated COVID. I love you very much. Shalom. Shalom.
Wishing you and everyone a kasiva v'chasima tova. We should all be written and sealed for a good year.
Thank you.
Thank you. Shalom. Shalom.